Hi. Today, I am going to explore the concept of our mind's eye and how we utilize that mind's eye, our imagery, to enhance the quality of our performance at the lanes. Ultimately, there's the performance that we're looking for in terms of execution and also in terms of our mindset. I know that all of us use imagery constantly throughout our day. We use it in all walks of life, in all aspects of our life. It is not new to us. When I first started exploring the idea of implementing imagery within my athletics, I got into using specific drills to enhance my clarity or my precision or my focus of what I saw and what I felt when I was involved with imagery. You can pick up the companion workbook and do 6 exercises that will help develop your imagery skill sets. But today, and in part 2, I want to simply organize it your imagery in a more relevant, useful, practical way. And to do that, I have divided imagery into 2 parts. Part 1 is the pre-arrival, and that is what today's session is going to be focusing on, your pre-arrival. And part 2, arrival, what we do when we've arrived at the lanes and we've actually ready to throw our first practice balls. So we're not going to get into part 2 today. We're going to focus our energies on part 1, which is the pre-arrival. All of this imagery, be it part 1 or part 2, is something we do in advance of the actual tournament setting, the league play setting, or the practice setting, all right? Imagery is something you do in advance to enhance the quality of your play. So, having said that, practice makes the imagery more real and sustainable. In other words, able to create and use imagery without breaks and pauses in the middle. All right. When we first start using imagery or making a purposeful habit of using it in a particular direction, we can get distracted away from it. And consequently, the only fix really here is repetition, which means practice, just like improving your average through throwing little round balls down the lane. All right, so let's get started. Part 1 today is all about what we do with pre-arrival. Pre-arrival begins with the mindset that you adopt going into practice, league, and tournament, making it the same, narrowing the gap between practice and tournament play. All right? Doing that from a mindset perspective, I want you to cultivate entering with an optimistic gladness, an optimistic spirit, a gladness for being there, having the opportunity, and a purposefulness, an intent. And that purposefulness is driven by the work of the day. What will you be doing that day? All right? The skill sets that you're going to bring to the game. All right. So, rehearse in your mind's eye. What does it feel like to bring a purposefulness to your game and to your day? An optimistic perspective and a gladness for the opportunity. So many times in my discussions with people, they simply show up at the lanes, walk in, put on their shoes, and throw balls with no pre-thought about their arrival and what they're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, if you give thought to what your day ahead is going to be like, it will unfold in a much easier fashion. You will roll with the punches of the day much easier than if you just walk in and show up. So, purposeful intent, optimism, and a gladness for the opportunity. Now, I said part 1 is all about everything prior to you actually throwing that first ball when you're going to practice, right? Warm up in a tournament. So let's look at it from a visual perspective, from the senses perspective of what that might look like. If you live in Saskatchewan, most tournaments are going to be held in winter when it is possibly cold, snowy, blizzardy, maybe not. Maybe the skies are bright blue and the air crisp and clean. You see your breath rise into the air and you have your 40-degree parka on, keeping you warm. You got that visualization? Can you imagine in your mind's eye pulling up to the lanes in your home province, home city, wherever that tournament is that you're going to? If it's a practice session, pulling up to go to your practice session, knowing what the weather is like because it changes, but generically speaking, if you're in winter, summer, spring, anyway, here we go. So imagine yourself pulling up, parking your car, getting your bag, locking up the car, walking over to the bowling center. You feel the crispness of the air. Maybe there's a breeze. You open the door to the bowling center and you walk in and you're hearing the clatter of the machines, the chatter of the people. All right? I like the chatter of the people because in my mind's eye, when there's a lot of chatter going on, it sounds like geese getting ready to fly, right? Anyway, no disrespect there, but doesn't it though? Anyway, so the sensory perspective of sight, seeing yourself arrive, what the air and everything looks like, opening the door to the bowling center. What does that bowling center look like? All right? Examine it in its detail. Feel really comfortable walking into that center. Been there, done that kind of mode. All right? The sound, the chatter, the clatter, the touch and the movement, your pace, purposeful intent, possibly walking with a calm demeanor, finding that place to put your coat, your ball rack, your accessories, etc. Finding the lane that you're going to bowl on, examining the lane draw. Maybe you've got a casual hello for a few people and a quick conversation. Please keep your conversations brief. And that time period when you move into arrival, all right, which we will get to later in another episode, do your best to ignore engaging in conversation because you were there for a purpose. So don't look for opportunities that are going to distract you away from your task at hand. Now, there's also the emotional context of it all. You're excited to be there. You have a calm excitedness about being there. Sometimes we arrive with a bit of anxiousness, worry, or concern. Well, no, you don't need to. You have, that psychologists have said, and it was first identified by a psychiatrist, actually, and his work revealed that we tend to get stressed by our perception of an event. It's not the event that causes the stress, it's the perception we give it. So the perception of that event that you're joining, okay? Anyway, the emotional context of what you're engaging in. Optimism, purposefulness, business plan, objectivity to analysis. All right, got it? When anxiety or anxiousness comes up, just feel yourself melting that away and replacing it with being calm and purposeful. Okay, so that's pre-arrival. Brief and short. It's all about essentially the key, the most important element of that is you walking into that bowling center and spending time and energy in your mind's eye of feeling comfortable walking into that bowling center optimistic, with a gladness, and with a purposeful intent about why you're there. That represents your pre-arrival. One more time. Purposeful intent, optimism, gladness. Practice, rehearse that. Feel it in your leagues, in your practice sessions, in your tournament play. Try and narrow the gap between what practice is and what tournament is so that you can bring them together. Thank you. We'll touch base again on part 2 when we talk about the arrival.